This is the process shot. I'm Michael. I'm feeling refreshed after taking a break for once, and unfortunately, this is what I have to come back to. Trust No One, The Hunt for the Crypto King, is a new-ish documentary from Luke Sewell that's sort of like a techno thriller for the modern age. It follows the story of Jerry Cotton, the CEO of cryptocurrency exchange Quadrica, and the circumstances surrounding his death and the subsequent disappearance of millions of dollars held by the company. Naturally, with hundreds, if not thousands, of affected customers, people focus their anger and energy on investigating the news, leading to the uncovering of financial mismanagement, a potential Ponzi scheme, and a history of bad intentions stretching back before Cotton's creation of Quadriga. However, with all of this amateur sleuthing comes a good amount of paranoia and distrust, with the growing assumption that anybody involved with Cotton at any point has something else to hide. It would have been a bit interesting if the movie took that sort of approach, mixing actual information with the breakneck pacing of a modern internet-based investigation, where false leads may be followed for days, or wild and nonsensical theories will be given serious consideration. It would certainly play into the title a bit more. Instead, the movie focuses more on the harder evidence and whatever personal narratives are found within all of these events, rather than any larger picture or subtext. It still has elements of the spontaneous nature of the reaction to the news, but it's not something that the movie presents all that well, treating this more as an aside or to fill in gaps within the timeline of events. The only time it really does comment on the crowdsourced side of the titular hunt is to criticize and paint it in a specific light before ignoring that aspect and moving right on again. It feels a bit jarring, especially since there's a good amount of focus on some of the people within this grouping, not to mention that they're initially shown as victims of Quadriga's actions. So for this storytelling choice to be made is just odd to me. In any case, that's more or less half of the film's deal. The other half is in its visual presentation, taking up the standard approach of talking heads against archived material and reenactments. It seems to be the easiest way to make a documentary nowadays, or at least it's a formula that allows for a pretty quick turnaround. Anyways, it really just means that most of your time will be spent listening to the movie and the narration of those being interviewed. The archival material can be interesting at times, but it's generally just used as B-roll and either contextualizes what is being discussed or becomes recontextualized itself later on. As for reenactments, they also don't offer too much towards the story at hand, and seem to just be more for the viewer's sake as the interview subjects go through their own introductions. Those intros are also a bit lacking, with more energy in setting up their environments rather than their characters. Speaking of which, it also doesn't help that the movie falls almost headfirst into trying to drive an emotional response through the film's score, which either leans into something bordering on melodrama and tragedy, or into something electronic and pulsating like the cyber thriller that it wants to be. Either way, it doesn't manage to be either of those. The film does come out with a rather interesting story that does have its fair share of twists and turns, but it tries a bit too hard to be something flashy and ultimately suffers for it. Trust No One, The Hunt for the Crypto King. Luke Sewell, 2022. 2.5 stars. I don't think I'd recommend it, though it's not a movie you should necessarily go out of your way to avoid. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. This has to be like the 100th documentary I've seen this year that has this sort of structuring to it. It's easy to get a handle on, obviously, but I'm hoping for some variety eventually, you know?